Understanding fabrics and materials does not need to be difficult, and I'm here to walk you through it. Hey everyone, my name is Ria. This is Ellen Evan Co, where I'm teaching you to create and curate your dream wardrobe. I am a self-taught sewist, and if I can create this, and this, then so can you. Welcome to episode 3 of Sewing 101, where I'm taking you through one of my favorite topics, fabric. I have this core memory of walking through Gardens, which is a fabric store, with my mom when I was a teenager, and I just remember getting lost in the lace and the sequined fabric and all of the beautiful material. And the lady that worked there came up to me and she was like, "You're a fabric person, aren't you?" She was like, "I can tell, I can see the fabric speaking to you." And never in my life have I felt so seen or understood. So thank you to the lady at Gardens. Getting lost in the fabric store is my idea of a good time, and if you can relate, then thank you so much for being here. I really want anyone who watches this video to not only have a really deep love for fabric, but a really deep understanding for it as well, because it's really important when it comes to your sewing. This is going to be really important not only when it comes to just the sewing process itself, but also choosing the right fabric is really important when it comes to the wearability and how your clothes actually look on your body. A lot hangs on your choice of fabric, no pun intended, so you want to make sure you're getting it right. Now, there's lots of different ways to categorize material and fabric, but I want to start with the most basic, which is fiber types. Fibers are the fundamental units of your fabric. They're the building blocks, so it's really good that you understand them, because then from there you get your different types of fabric. Fiber types are predominantly split into 2 different categories. So you have natural fibers and synthetic fibers. Natural fibers are from plant and animal origin, whereas synthetic fibers are man-made through chemical processes. So examples of natural fibers are cotton, linen, silk, wool, and then examples of synthetic fibers are polyester, nylon, spandex, acrylic, rayon, all of those. Fibers are then spun into yarn, and then the yarn is used to create the material. So in the example of cotton, you'd go out and you'd pick the cotton from the fields. You'd be able to feel the cotton in your hand. That's the fiber. You then take that fiber, you spin it into yarn. That's your cotton yarn. And then that gets either woven or knitted to create a fabric. And we'll get into weave and knit in a minute. But that is basically a little bit of an understanding of fibers there. So using the example of cotton again, we can get a lot of different fabrics from the cotton fiber. We can get cotton poplin, denim, drill, homespun. In terms of flax, we can get linen. You can also get satin from silk. And then when it comes to the synthetic fibers, polyester can be, turned into almost anything. Acrylic can be made to mimic wool. Spandex can get turned into nylon. There's a lot of different things that can be made out of the synthetic fabrics as well. So as I said, those fibers are the building blocks, and then the way that they're interlaced together will determine the fabric that they're then created into. Another way that fabrics will be classified is either as woven or knitted. Let's talk about woven fabrics first. If you were a crafty kid like me, you may have had a knitting loom, which is like a tapestry. On the knitting loom, there are vertical lines of yarn, and then you interlace the horizontal lines of yarn in between them. That's how you get your woven tapestry structure. And that's basically the same idea with woven fabric. So the technical names for the vertical and horizontal lines are warp and weft. When we're talking about fabric characteristics or fabric structure, this is ultimately influenced by the way the fabric is woven, by the way those warp and weft yarns interlace with each other. This is really going to affect strength, texture, flexibility, and all of those characteristics. So as I said, your warp is your vertical yarn, and then your weft is your horizontal yarn. We then have the word weave, which refers to the way in which the warp and weft yarns interlace together. I hope we're still following. There's a lot of W words at the moment. I'm so sorry. Let me just give you some examples so it makes a bit more sense. We have plain weave or tabby weave, which is the most common basic weave there is, right? The horizontal yarn just weaves over and under the vertical yarn, super basic. So fabric examples of this are your cotton poplin or your flax linen, It's very simple over under. The characteristics of this weave is that it's strong and durable. It gives the fabric an even surface, but it's very prone to wrinkling. As you would know if you've worked with linen before, it crushes really easily, but that's tabby weave or plain weave. So when we're putting this into a real life example, choosing a tabby weave cotton or linen fabric is going to be really great for something like a summer dress, something with darts and gathers, that kind of thing. There's then twill weave, where the weft goes over 2 of the warped yarns. This creates a diagonal pattern. Some common examples of this are denim and drill. So drill is a cotton fabric made from using twill weave. Characteristics of this weave: it's got distinctive diagonal lines, it has a slightly softer structure, it's less prone to wrinkles, and it's really great for like workwear, trousers, that kind of thing. It's a bit more durable. There's then satin weave, and I just want to say this right now because I think I've said this in a few other videos. Satin is not the fiber, satin is the weave. So you can have silk satin, you can have cotton satin or cotton sateen, you can have polyester satin. All of those fibers are getting woven into satin, okay? So in a satin weave, warp and weft yarns float over several threads, usually 4 or more, before interlacing. And this creates that really smooth surface that you see in satin. So warped face satin is the most common. So examples of this are your polyester satin or your silk satin or your charmeuse or something like that. Okay, so the key characteristics of satin: its glossy appearance, soft texture. It can easily snag and gets damaged quite easily. Satin is really great for garments that require a bit more drape. So bias cut skirts, dresses, flowy trousers, flowy blouses, that kind of thing. So that's just a couple examples of weave. There's many more out there. I recommend you go and do a little bit of research. This is just to highlight the fact that the way you interlace the yarns really does change how the fabric is going to behave at the end of the day. There's other factors at play when it comes to fabric choice as well. Let's take tabby weave, for example. Let's say you want to make a summer dress and you have the option to choose a tabby weave polyester, like a mixed cotton polyester tabby weave, or 100% cotton. I'd always go for the 100% cotton because in that instance, the cotton is going to be a lot more breathable because it's natural. Whereas if you were making like a jacket and you wanted to use something like a cotton poplin as your lining, that might be better because it will provide a little bit more warmth. So even if weaves are the same, they may still have different uses. So that's another factor that can come into play. Another one is thread count. So this is the number of threads in a square inch of that fabric. And some fabrics are denser, some fabrics are less dense. So that's going to come into play and change the weight of the fabric as well. Obviously, a higher thread count results in a smoother, stronger, and more luxurious fabric. Finishings also come into play with this as well. So what happens to the fabric after it's all weaved together? It can be washed, dyed, starched. That's all going to change the appearance and the feel of the fabric. Like I said before, there's a lot of other types of weaves, but this just gives you a really good overview on where to get started. Like I said before, there's also knitted fabric. So these are either made on knitting machines or by hand using loops of yarn rather than interlacing yarn together. So the loops give the fabric that stretch and softness. So examples of knitted fabric are jersey, rib knit, interlock, and fleece. Some of the pros that come to knitted fabric is that it's stretchy and comfortable. They don't usually need zippers or buttons as closures because you kind of just stretch them onto your body. And they don't fray, or they don't fray much. So in conclusion, understanding fabric structure is key to choosing the right fabric for your project. There's lots of different ways to categorize your fabric, whether it's by fiber type, whether it's by weave or knit, whether it's by fabric density. The weave is going to determine how the fabric behaves. I really think when you first start sewing, the best way to choose fabric, and this is going to sound so boring, read the fabric recommendations on your pattern. I know that that's like, duh, but honestly, like it sometimes common sense isn't that common. Read the fabric recommendation. It will say, you know, cotton or linen or stretch knit or whatever, and then actually go out to the fabric store and touch the fabric. Like, be a weirdo. Go and feel the fabric in your hands. I also think when you first start sewing, you should try and buy your fabric in store as often as possible. Don't rush to buy it online. There's some really great online stores, but I think until you understand and intuitively know which fabric is what, just get used to going to the fabric store, actually feeling the weight of the fabric in your hands. You really do learn a lot that way. A really common question from beginner sewers is what fabric is the easiest to learn on, or what fabric should I start with? And this is a double-edged sword. I think different people have different experiences. For me, I started learning sewing with cotton and linen-based fabrics because they're a little bit cheaper, but also because they're a lot easier to handle. You can iron them. They move where you tell them to move. Like, they're not super slippery or anything like that. But I guess on the flip side of that, you do need to do a lot more techniques on those fabrics. So like, you'll need to put in darts or gathers, and you'll need to put in closures like buttonholes and zippers and that kind of thing, which can pose a little bit of difficulty when you're starting. Whereas other people I've spoken to, they've started with knit fabrics because they say it's easier because you don't have to put in zippers or buttonholes or anything like that. But then on the flip side, those fabrics are a little bit more fluid and stretchy, and they don't always go where you want them to go, and you can't iron them as much. So there's pros and cons. I reckon dive in with both. It really comes down to what you want to sew initially. For me, it was summer dresses, so I learned to sew with cotton and that kind of thing, but it's entirely up to you. I've only really started sewing with stretch knit fabric in the last year, and I've been sewing for 5 years. So take from that what you will. This video could be 10 times longer because we really only scratched the surface of fabrics. But I hope it's been helpful and you've learnt something. Ultimately, I hope it answers some questions when you go to pick out your fabric in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And also don't forget to hit the bell notification so you're notified every time that I upload. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!